Let's take a look at graphing on TI-84 plus Silver Edition MP version edition. How can you tell if you got that or not? Well, if you press second and then plus to go in your memory, and about's already highlighted, so you press enter on it. You see how mine says 2.53 MP? You may not have 2.53, but the MP refers to MathPrint. Now I'm going to press mode. And I shut off MathPrint because I wanted to create a set of videos without it first. Then I'm going to down arrow. And go to my second page. So again, mode, down arrow until you get to your second page. And you should see MathPrint and Classic. Now I want MathPrint highlighted, so my flashing cursor is on MathPrint now, so I'll press enter one time. And then if I do down arrow, you see MathPrint's highlighted. And then to exit out of that, you do second mode. To exit out of anything in your calculator, you always do second mode. Okay, so now we're set up for MathPrint. So let's start going through our different basic blocks. We got y is equal to x. Now these are pretty simple graphs, and you may be sitting there, well, I already know those. I don't need to plug those in the calculator. That's not the point here. The point here is we're trying to learn all these basic building blocks on the calculator, so we then can combine them together for harder graphs. So y is equal to x. We'll press our y equals. Press our clear out wherever it's not lined. I'll push my x key, and then I'll push my graph. And that would be what we get. Now you may have got an error, or I guarantee at some point you'll probably screw up your calculator and you'll get an error. So this is going to show you how to fix errors you might get on your calculator. Well, to begin with, if I go back to y equals, these you can freely go back and forth between y equals and graph. And remember, second mode exits you out. You see across the top it says plot 1, plot 2, and plot 3. Mine aren't highlighted. I'm going to up arrow, put my flashing cursor on plot 1, and press enter one time, and then down arrow. If you have one or more of those highlighted, one of three things will happen. Let me push graph and show you the first item. You may get an invalid dim. That's one thing that could happen. Another thing that could happen is it could just work. You know, your graph would look normal. And then third thing is your graph will work, but you'll have extra garbage on your screen. So you have one of those three things will happen. I'll go ahead and press enter and quit. I go back to y equals. We don't want any of those highlighted. So if any of them are highlighted, press your up arrow and right arrow if necessary, but you want your flashing cursor on the highlighted one, and press enter one time. Then down arrow, and you should then be able to press graph and get the answer. That's one thing. Now if I press y equals, you see we got y1 through y7 on our screen. If I scroll clear to the bottom, you'll see we have a y8, y9, and y0. Occasionally students will get down here and they'll put a bunch of garbage on y0. Some commas maybe, some parentheses, so forth. And then they go and graph. Gives them a syntax error. Now quit's highlighted, so your natural inclination is to go ahead and press enter and quit. And then you go back to y equals and you think, well, what's wrong with that? Don't get any simpler than that. You think, well, maybe it's a quirk with the calculator. So you press your graph again. You think, okay, it's working now. Then boom, it comes up a syntax error. What you should always choose is you should always do a go to. So I'm down arrowing to go to, and I'm going to press enter on that. And that'll go to where your error is. Eventually. There it goes. Now whenever I have students bring their calculator up and they have this error in my class, I ask them if they have kids. Some of them will say no, and I tell them to quit drinking while they're using their calculator. That isn't the only reason this would happen. I had a student one semester told me she throws her calculator in her backpack without putting a cover on. And then I could understand how you can get garbage down here without having an alcohol problem. But anyway, once you get that down there, you press clear, and it clears out that line. And then if you press graph, then it'll work. Now the third item. Sometimes you screw up the zoom. And to fix your standard viewing window, you press zoom, and then you choose 6. So enter in 6. And that sets your display back to your standard viewing window, which is -10 to 10 on my x-axis, and negative 10 to 10 on my y-axis. As an example, I'm going to go into window here, and x min I'm going to change to 20, x max is 10, and then press graph. Now you get a window range error. I see students get this. I'm not sure how they get it. If I press enter and quit, again, to fix any of those type of issues, you press zoom 6, and then it sets you back to where you were. Now those three items, like I say, should fix most errors on your calculator. 95-98% of the problems that occur. Okay, let's look at our next basic building block. We've got y is equal to x squared. Well, I'm going to press my y equals. Press my clear to clear out wherever's in the line. I'll do my x key, and then I'll push the x squared button. And then I'll push graph. And this is what you'll see. Now y is equal to x to the third. Now I could care less what this looks like. What I'm demonstrating is how do you handle it when you got any number in your exponent. You have third power, fourth power, fifth power, 20th power, 201st power. So press clear, and I'll press y equals clear, and I'm going to do an x key caret 3. Now if you're watching your instructor graph this in class, and it's not looking exactly like that, and they got a TI-84 plus silver edition. There's two different types of TI-84 plus silver editions. One of them is math print, which is what we're looking at. The other one, you would just see caret 3 there. The important thing to remember for your particular version, the math print, is to get out of the exponent mode, you press your right arrow key to get out of the exponent. And then we'll press graph, and this will be your answer. Now, if you want yours to look just like your instructors, and they got that the normal TI-84 plus silver edition, then go to your mode, and instead of having math print selected, choose classic. Okay, let's take a look at y is equal to x to 1/2. And I could care less what this looks like. What I'm demonstrating here is how do you handle it when you got any fraction in your exponent. It's even more than that. If you have more than a single number or a single variable in your exponent, the trick to it is to put parentheses on your exponent. Now that's on a typical TI-84 calculator. Yours is special. You don't need the parentheses. But I'm putting that there just so you may spot why they're showing you parentheses in class. So I'll come back to y equals, press clear, I'll do my x key, caret, and that throws it up in exponent mode. And again, all you have to do is 1 divided by 2. Automatically, that's already all in your exponent. Doesn't hurt to put the parentheses there, so if you want to put them, that's fine. Remember, to get out of exponent, you have to press your right arrow key, and then graph. And that's what we get for our answer. Well, let's take a look at y is equal to square root of x. I'll press my y equals, press my clear. To get to the square root, not everything's on a button. Some items are above a button. See above the x squared is the square root. So we'll do second x squared. And you'll see a square root symbol appear on there and a blank underneath. So we'll put x in there. And I'll right arrow key to get out of the square root. Very important if you got more after this. Not so important for a simple problem like this. And then I'll press graph. And you see something looks like the one we just looked at, which it should be. X to the 1/2 is the same as the square root of x. Well, the cube root of x, that's one you see fairly often, so let's take a look at it. We'll press our y equals, clear. Now, if it's not on a button, it's not above a button, you're going to find it underneath the math button. So press the math button. And you see the cube root is the fourth one down. So I can either down arrow to the fourth one and press enter, or I can just simply press the numbers in front of it, which is 4. And it chooses it for me. And see I got the cube root, and then the symbol, and then I need to put x in. Right arrow key gets you out of the cube root. And then graph. And that would be our graph. And let's take a look at the fourth root of x. Now I could care less what this one looks like. I'm demonstrating what do you do when you got any number in that slot. 4, 5, and up. Can't be 2 or 3 because we already covered those cases here. This is called your index. And how we do it is we press our y equals, clear. We put our index in first. So press 4. Then I go to math. And we want to choose the fifth one, the radical with an x for the index. So we'll choose 5. And it automatically puts the 4 in for your index. And then we'll put the x key in. And then I'll press the right arrow key to get it out of the fourth root. And then press graph. Kind of an important concept to keep in mind here is the right arrow gets you out of anything. Gets you out of the exponent, gets you out of the radical, gets you out of the fourth root, out of the cube root, out of whatever you're dealing with. Now let's look at the absolute value of x. Press my y equals, press clear. I'm going to go into my math, and absolute value is under the num menu, so I have to press the right arrow to num. And you see ABS is already highlighted. So I press enter on it, and you'll actually see the absolute value bars there. So then I put my x in, and I have to press the right arrow key to get out of the absolute value, and then press graph. That gives us our V-shaped graph. Okay, let's look at y is equal to x plus 2 over x minus 3. Now I could care less what this graph looks like. What I'm demonstrating here is how do you handle fractions on your calculator, whether it's in graph mode or anywhere. If you have more than a single number or a single variable on top or bottom, you have to put parentheses around that part. So I'd put parentheses around the top, parentheses around the bottom. Now if I just had a single x up here, I wouldn't have to put parentheses around it. Doesn't hurt anything, but you wouldn't have to. Other than that, we type it in exactly as we see it. So press my y equals, clear, beginning parentheses, x plus 2, closing parentheses, divided by, beginning parentheses, x minus 3, closing parentheses, and notice how it's scrolling. So if I wanted to go back over to the left, I just need to do my left arrow key to scroll back over. And anyway, you don't have to scroll clear to there. I'm just showing how you can scroll back. And then you press graph. And this will give you your graph. Oops. Hopefully I can get that right. There's a little bit better. Now there shouldn't be a vertical line here. If your particular model has a vertical line, that shouldn't be part of the graph. That's a flaw with the calculator. It's not the vertical asymptote. I went and read up on it, and it's a flaw with the calculator. Okay. Let's look at this. Y is equal to dash square root dash x dash 3. We got 2 dashes on our calculator. The one on the bottom here, which is your negative, and the one on the side here, which is your minus. And the general guideline is if your dash is the very beginning of whatever, it's a negative. So this dash here is the very beginning of my problem. So this will be a negative. This dash here is at the very beginning of my square root. So it'll be a negative. If your dash is not at the beginning of something and it's between 2 items, like the x is, this one's between the x and the 3, then this is a minus. Now other than that, you just type in as you see it. So I'll press y equals, clear, put in a negative, square root, so I do second x squared, and then negative x minus 3, and I'll press my right arrow key to get it out of the radical, and then press graph. And that would be our graph. Let's see what happens if we screw up some of the dashes. If I press y equals, and the dash is before x, let's change that to a minus. And then press graph. We get a syntax error. That's okay. We know how to handle syntax errors. You choose go to, so I want a down arrow to go to, and press enter. It not only goes to the line where the problem is, but it actually puts a cursor on what the issue is. And you see it puts it on the dash here, which must mean it's the other one. So put a negative back there. And then if you press graph, you get your correct graph. Well, you're sitting there wondering, well, if it handles it so nice like that, then why does it matter? Why are you even spending time on this? Well, let's go back to y equals, and let's change the dash between the x and the 3. Instead of a minus, let's put a negative there, and press graph. No longer do we get an error. We actually just get a wrong graph, which is frustrating. Come test time, come final exam time, you think you've done it perfectly, and you miss every point. Have to know what those dashes mean. If I go back to y equals, like we said, that dash is between the x and the 3, so I need to make that a minus. And then if I press graph, that'd give us our original answer. Now let's look at a one that kind of encompasses different components. We've got y to the power of x squared minus 3x plus the square root of x. Now in a normal class, if you're seeing this graph, remember what I said. If you have more than a single number or a single variable in your exponent, you have to put parentheses around it. So you'll see them put parentheses around it like that. You don't need to worry about that yourself. Your calculator handles it just fine. I'll press my y equals, clear. I'll do my x key, and how we always do an exponent is with a caret. So I'll press the caret, and notice I'm up in exponent now. Exponent mode now. So we got x squared, so I do x key squared minus 3x plus, and I need the square root. So I'm going to do second x squared, and it puts a square root on there, and then I'll do the x key. I'll right arrow to get out of the square root. I'll right arrow to get out of the exponent. And then if I press graph, that gives us our answer. Maybe. The graphing calculator does have its flaws. Sometimes it just gives you the wrong graph. Things aren't quite precise in it, even when you enter everything incorrect. But it's better than if we did it by hand. Well, let's say you're the best point plotter there was in your class. Everybody else was happy with 3 points. You did 10. Let's say you plotted the points here. Built your T-chart. Well, we know what that is. That's that U-shaped graph. Or is it? Maybe it's coming up like this and then looking like this. Maybe it's not our U-shape or parabola. Maybe it's a heart. Maybe it's coming up like this and then coming back down over here. Maybe this is coming up like this and coming back down over here. Maybe this is coming down over here at x equals 500. You would have had to plot 500 points in your T-chart before you saw it come back down. That's quite a few. Plotting points is the worst method in the world unless you already know what the graph looks like. But if you already know what the graph looks like, then why are you bothering graphing it? The graphing calculator is a step better than that. Actually, quite a few steps better. But it still has problems. Like my standard viewing window might look like this. And I don't know it's coming back down. I could zoom, but maybe this is coming back down to 50,000. We don't know. Calculus gives you techniques to find the exact picture. So we don't worry about it too much in algebra. You will see the leading coefficient test, which can help tell you if there's more to the graph, but still will not give you the exact graph using the calculator. Again, to exit out of anything, you do second mode, and that's graphing on a TI-84 Plus Silver Edition MP Edition, Math Print Edition.